Today I want to share with you the last message in our series on Get a Grip. We're talking about relationships. And I want to share something that's so vital in our lives today. 5 relationships that every one of us need. Now, in this series, we've learned that our resources are in our relationships. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever had a relationship that you regretted? Don't be pointing at anybody right now, but have you ever had one that you regretted, brought a lot of negative things into your life? Can you remember a potential relationship with someone that possibly was there and now you regret not pursuing that relationship? Or maybe a relationship that's ongoing that's been a super blessing to your life and these people bless you every time you're with them. Well, there are many types of relationships, but I believe there are 5 key relationships that all of us need in our lives. Here's the first one. Proverbs 27:17 says, "As iron sharpens iron, iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend." So we're talking about 5 positive relationships that we need in our life. The first one, everybody's going to like this one, is encouragement. Everybody say encouragement. Isaiah 41:6-7. I'm just taking just a portion of the scripture out of this chapter. It'd be great to read the entire chapter. But verse 6 says, "Everyone helped his neighbor and said to his brother, 'Be of good courage.' So the craftsman encouraged the goldsmith, and he who smooths with the hammer inspired him who strikes the anvil." Now there are few things more powerful, more satisfying, more pleasant than the words of encouragement when we're down. There's an unknown quote that says, "A word of encouragement during a failure is worth more than an hour of praise after success." How many of you resemble that remark? I certainly know that I do. You know, it's wonderful for people to tell you how good you are when you win something, when you do something well, when you have a success in your life. That's all great. But really, you're riding the wave of the success emotionally. But it's when you're down. It's when you're hurting. It's when you've had a failure in your life. You've had a disappointment. Maybe it's not due to anything you've done, but because someone else affected you so much. Or maybe it's just something you did dumb. Boy, it's those times when we need those relationships that come into our lives that encourage us. You know, Barnabas and Saul is a great example in the New Testament. In fact, Barnabas' name simply means encourager. And so Barnabas was an encourager to Paul multiple times. Barnabas is the one that went to Paul, also known as Saul, who wanted to meet with the apostles in Jerusalem, and they wouldn't let him in. They said, "Now this guy's trying to trick us. We know who he is. He's the number one enemy of the church. He's put people in jail. He's had people executed. No, he's not right. We're not letting him in our group." And it was Barnabas that went and got Paul, brought him, built a relationship with him, knocked on the door, and brought Paul into a relationship with those guys, introduced him. It was Barnabas, the encourager. You see, encouragement is like the lift under the wings of an airplane that enables it to fly above the restrictive surface below. Now, we've all seen airplanes, all different kinds of airplanes, big jet airplanes, and if you've traveled much, you've been on different kind of planes. I've been on just about every size of a plane that there are, and float planes and single-engine planes and big jumbo jet planes and all those things. And it's powerful. It never ceases to amaze me when you see those big, heavy jets that weigh thousands of pounds, tons and tons of material there, and they go down this runway, and then they just lift up and they go up in the air. And you say, "Wow, there must be some powerful engines." Well, they are powerful engines, but it's not the engines that cause them to fly. I mean, I know there's a pickup truck, I believe, that has 700 horsepower, but it doesn't fly. It may go fast, but it doesn't fly. There's an electric car that's got 2,000 horsepower. 400 or 500 horsepower electric motors. 2,000 horsepower, but it doesn't fly. You know why? Because it doesn't have wings. It's the wings that give it lift. Those engines simply push it down the runway fast enough to cause that air to go under those wings and pick that plane up. That's what encouragement is. Encouragement is I think there's even a song to this effect, an old one many years ago. You're the wind beneath my wings. Well, that's what encouragement is. It is wind beneath our wings that lifts us. Here's the second one. And you're going to say, what? When I tell you this one, I mean, you're just going to look at me like, what are you talking about? Here's the second relationship we need. I simply call it discouragement. Let's say, wait a minute, Pastor, stop, hold the phone. I don't need anybody discouraging me in my life. Well, let me define that word. Allow me to explain. There are times in our lives when we may be making wrong decisions, bad choices, inappropriate behavior. It is during those times that we need a relationship in our life that is strong enough and loving enough to confront us in our lives and discourage us from making bad decisions, discourage us from bad behavior. Ephesians 4:15 states this, but speaking the truth in love. Get that, speaking the truth in love. Some people can speak the truth in hate and it doesn't come across well. But speak the truth in love may grow up in all things. In other words, mature into Him who is the head, Christ. See, this portion of Scripture is dealing with Christian maturity, growth, and unity. These are the times in our lives when we need someone who can come to us and speak the truth in love. I mean, look, if you've got bad breath, it's not a bad thing for somebody to come and say, hey, you need a Tic Tac. You need a cert, you need a mint, you need something, okay? You said, that's what I'm talking about. Now, that may be a simple illustration, but what is that? That's speaking the truth in love. I love you enough to say, hey, here's a mint, and here's one on me. Just have one on me. Speaking the truth in love. When we ignore the truth in love, what we do is we release a series of consequences in our lives that steal, kill, and destroy. Where does that come from? John 10:10, Jesus says the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But when you've got a person in your life that can speak the truth in love, and I use the word discouragement just to catch your attention, but that's really to discourage us from doing wrong and encourage us to do right. Whether it's in your marriage, if you're married, whether you're youth and you need somebody to speak the truth in love, if it's an issue of the heart, here's what I call this particular relationship. It's someone that holds the shut up card in my life. That's right, shut up card. Now, I know it's maybe not be polite to walk up to somebody and say, shut up. But we need somebody in our life, we need a relationship that can walk up to us and say, shut up. Stop, sit down. Stop that behavior. Quit speaking to your wife that way. Quit speaking to your husband that way. Quit treating your friends that way. Quit obsessing over this. Quit drinking that much. Quit doing that much. Quit do whatever. To say to us, hey, you're out of balance here. You're about to run in the ditch of life. You're about to have a tip over. You're about to fall over here. You're about to crash. Stop, stop, stop. That's love. Love is not watching somebody destroy themselves because we don't want to hurt their feelings. All feelings are so overrated. But when you have somebody in your life that has the shut up card that you will listen to, that you'll be honest to, because we all tend to weave sometime. You've seen somebody driving down the road and they're looking on their phone and they're weaving. We need somebody in the seat over that says, hey, back up, back in the middle of the road. Hey, pay attention to the road. Truck down there. Hey, there's an exit coming up. Whoa, they got the brake lights on. Now, some people do that a little too much, but we need that person that's sitting in that right seat of the car, going down the road of life with us, that when we need it, when we're weaving a little, can speak the truth in love. Here's the third one. I call it guidance. Say that with me, guidance. Acts 8:30 and 31. So Philip ran to him. He ran to the Ethiopian eunuch that was in a chariot going down the road. He ran to him. He heard him reading the prophet Isaiah and said, do you understand what you are reading? Now notice what this man said. He's a very intelligent man, very high in authority. He was the treasurer, from what we understand. He was the treasurer of Ethiopia. Now see, he had a high cabinet position. And this is what he said in verse 31. How can I? Philip said, do you understand what you're reading? He says, how can I unless someone guides me. There are times in our lives that a little guidance from someone who has wisdom and experience that we don't would save us time, energy, money, and pain. And I could spend the rest of the day giving personal examples of my life when I wished I had somebody. I had this relationship in my life starting as a teenager. Someone that could speak that into my life that I would listen to. Someone as I was a newlywed that could have spoken into my life about how to treat this beautiful, wonderful, awesome, incredible human being that God had given me to share my life with, which this month will be 47 years of marriage. And I wish I'd had somebody then that could have given me some wisdom and guidance in that. Would have been a lot better. I would have been a lot better. Someone to give me wisdom and guidance with raising two little daughters. My wife was that person. She taught me how to be a daddy to daughters. I grew up with a brother and a dog. You see, we need guidance relationships in our life. Guidance relationships come from more than one source. We can receive guidance for investments from people who are skilled in that area. See, this is not just one person, because one person can't guide you in everything unless it's Jesus. But someone who can guide you and help you in the area of financial investments in your life. How about relationships with others? Guidance that can help you with some people are great with building relationships. Some people need more guidance than others. Guidance in spiritual matters. Guidance in your hobby. Whatever it needs. We need people, relationships that can, like Philip, as the Ethiopian said to him, "How can I unless somebody guides me?" And Philip joined him and began to expound on the Scriptures and explain and guided him to Jesus Christ. You know, everybody needs somebody's help in guiding them to Jesus. So important. Here's the fourth one. And it's so important as well. And it's kind of similar to the third one, but it goes beyond that. It's a much deeper relationship. And that is, everybody needs the relationship of a model or a mentor. I just use both of those words together. Someone to model life, someone to mentor life with you. 1 Corinthians 11:1, Paul writes this. Somebody could look at this and say that's an arrogant statement. But when you understand the complexities of Paul and the calling on his life and the depth of how God was using him and his story, you would understand it better. But here's what he said: imitate me just as I also imitate Christ. Imitate me. In other words, follow me as I follow Jesus. I read that story. It reminds me of a movie that I saw many years ago. The movie was probably made in the early 60s, I'm not sure, with Fred McMurray. And the title of the movie was Follow Me, Boys. And Fred McMurray became a scout leader, a scout master of a troop. And all the struggles the little boys went through and the difficulties. And one's boy's daddy was an alcoholic and how it embarrassed him. And then his daddy died and they adopted this little boy. And then it goes through the progression of life. And at the very end of the movie, they're having a celebration for the scoutmaster, played by Fred McMurray. He's retired, and they're having a celebration. And the boy that they adopted is now the local physician of the small town that they were in. And another little boy in the scout group is now the governor of the state, so the governor comes in. And all of these boys became great successful men in their own right because of this one man that said, "Follow me." And he set a path of integrity for them. That's what Paul is saying. He says, follow me as I follow Christ. Imitate me as I imitate Christ. Not imitate me because of who I am, but imitate me as I imitate Christ. This is what Jesus did with his 12 disciples. He modeled life and ministry. That's why they traveled with him. Because he modeled how to treat people. He modeled how to buy groceries. He modeled how to fast. He modeled how to pray. He modeled how to minister to people. He modeled how to forgive. He modeled how to rebuke the Pharisees. They watched him in all of this. He modeled life. You know, a question would be, who is your model for life? Who is your mentor? This was really close to my heart because I have incredible parents, and they modeled life for me. My dad modeled how to be a man, how to work hard, how to take care of your family, how to love your wife. He modeled that for me. They've modeled that, and I have wonderful, wonderful parents. But my dad's not a pastor. And so when I went into ministry full time, I didn't have a model or a mentor. The pastor that was my pastor for those years from age 16 up through about 27 was a great preacher, wonderful preacher, loved God, and preached the Word of God, instilled so much in me that I have today, but didn't understand the concept of model or mentoring. Never heard from him after I started planning a church, maybe one time. I didn't have a mentor, I didn't have a model. So I had to look for one. I had to scratch around. I mean, I had to go. I'd go to meetings and I'd sit and take notes, and I'd buy everyone's CDs. And in fact, I was just in Phoenix, Arizona, just a few weeks ago at a conference, an invitation meeting of some different leaders. And at that meeting, actually, I presented my book, Borrowed Vessels. They had just incorporated into their divinity, their School of Divinity, this organization had, and required reading a required subject to graduate from their Bible college. And I was making the presentation at the Dream City Church, formerly First Assembly, pastored by Pastor Tommy Barnett. And I recall the first time that I set foot on that place there was 31. I was 31 years old. And I was just like walking around. It's incredible. It's over 6,000 seats. It has 2 balconies. It's like the Taj Mahal. It's incredible. It's awesome. And the ministry there. And I remember that first time when I was 31 years old, as I sat in the top balcony, and I'm just looking down and I'm watching this guy, Pastor Tommy Barnett, preach. And I'm watching him and all this, and it's packed out, and hundreds are coming to the altar, and it's just amazing. And you know what I did? I said, he's going to be my mentor from afar. I'll probably never meet him. I'll probably never get to shake his hand, and I didn't then. He never know who I am, but I'm going to learn from this guy. And I went out there in the hallway, and I didn't have much money. We're just living the best we can in a little rundown coal town in West Kentucky, and pastoring a great God had give us a church there to plant. And I bought every cassette tape that they had and every booklet that they had. I mean, all the money that I had, I bought. Didn't have a credit card back then. I just bought everything I had, what cash I had, enough money to get home on. I still have that stuff. While I went through that, I listened to it, I learned, I gained, I learned. And next time I went out there, I was sitting there and I did the same thing again. Became a mentor. Fast forward 34 years, and I'm there at that church making a presentation about a book that God had given me. In fact, this is one of the chapters out of it. And then on Thursday, we had a golf for those who want to play golf. The conference is over, and it's Phoenix, why not? I said, sure, I'd like to play. And I had taken Pastor Chad with me, and so I said, now, Pastor Chad's kind of new at playing golf, and I need him to be in my cart with me, and I'm just going to kind of help him. And I don't know that much myself, but I do own some clubs. And so when they gave the pairings out, I noticed that Pastor Chad wasn't with me, that Pastor Tommy Barnett was in my cart. And I took it to the lady. I said, I want to play with Pastor Tommy, but I was supposed to be Pastor Chad. And they said, well, Pastor Tommy requested to play with you, and he gets what he wants. It's okay. I'm fine with that. And so was Pastor Chad. So I get to spend a day, 4 or 5 hours, sitting in a golf cart with a man that I said 34 years ago, I'm going to make him my mentor. I'm going to pursue that. Through that period of time, I got to meet him. I preached for him several times. What a blessing. What an incredible blessing. But it all started with this little country boy looking down from the second balcony and said, he's going to be a mentor for me. And he has been. Spending 4 or 5 hours in a golf cart with him, listening to stories. What's that worth for me? It may not be worth anything to you, but for me it's worth gold. What do you have a mentor or model for in your life? You may have a model for your profession. You may have a model for your marriage. You may have a model for serving God. You need a spiritual, like Paul said. You may have a model for your hobby, a mentor in your hobby that you mentor. Someone mentors you in a hobby that you're doing, fishing or golfing or needlepoint or whatever it may be, but somebody that's mentoring you in that. Maybe your hobby is playing a musical instrument. You need somebody to mentor you in that can help you with that. A model and a mentor is so very, very important in our lives. A model or a mentor can move you ahead 5, 10, sometimes more than that years in your life by simply sharing the wisdom and the experience that they have. You can learn more from a qualified model or mentor in your life in a short time than you can learn in almost a lifetime of experiences. Find that person. Find those models, those mentors in the area of life that you need them. And connect to them. It may be from afar, it may be close. But don't be without one. Draw, I call them wells of wisdom. Dip down into those wells of wisdom. And here's the last one, the 5 relationships. The 5th one I call celebration. Come on, shout that with me, everybody. Celebration. John 14:28 says, "You have heard me say to you," this is Jesus speaking, "you've heard me say to you, I am going away and coming back to you. If you love me," now hear the words of Jesus, "if you love me, you would rejoice because I said I'm going to the Father and my Father is greater than I." Now see, he's talking about his death, burial, his resurrection and ascension into heaven. And they're like, no, don't go. No, we don't want you to do that. No. And he says, wait a minute. If you love me, you would rejoice because I said I'm going to my Father. See, this was Jesus' purpose. It was his dream. He wanted them to celebrate his purpose. Each of us need people in our lives who celebrate us rather than tolerate us. We'll say that again. We need people in our lives that celebrate us rather than just tolerate us. You've heard the term Debbie Downer, somebody that, and bless your heart, all you Debbies, bless your heart. I'm sorry that they attached your name to that. It just rhymes, I guess. Could be a Gary Downer. I don't know. It doesn't click, though. People that you share. Listen, guess what happened to me? Hey, have you ever had anybody you went to them and said, guess what happened? Guess what happened? They're like, oh, really? Whatever. Oh, I don't know why you did that. Oh, I don't know why they gave that to you. I don't know why that happened. What are they doing? They're tolerating you. But do you have somebody in your life you can go and say, guess what happened? Guess what I got to do? Guess what happened? And they're like, really? Wow, yay. And they scream, and you all go out and get an ice cream cone or sweet tea or a milkshake or something like that, and you celebrate. We all need people who celebrate us in life. Those 5 things that I've shared with you are so vital. And here's what I want to challenge you to do. I want you right now, don't let the sun go down today when you hear this message, to stop wherever you are and list those 5 things. List those 5. Those 5. List those 5 relationships and then put to the side of it who that is in your life. And if it's blank and you can't think of anybody, begin to pray and ask the Holy Spirit to help you to find the person to fill that relationship role in your life. And you will not only be glad you did, it will transform your life.